Welcome to the Programmatic Digest podcast, a weekly roundup of top programmatic news with fellow programmatic ninjas. I'm your host, Ellen Parker, your very own programmatic sensei. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get into today's conversation, subscribe, like, and share. Leave us a comment. If you need any more details, visit our website, programmaticdigest.com, programmaticdigest.com, where you'll be prompted for our new weekly or monthly newsletter. It only alerts you when there's a new episode live. So thank you so much for all your support and love, and remember to be curious. Enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the Sensei's Corner, Reny. How are you doing today?
Hi, Ellen. I'm doing well. Well, the best I can be on a Monday, right?
That is so truth. And it's happy hour time. So I appreciate you making time for us.
Of course. I'm a huge fan. I actually, so I started programmatic back in lockdown, actually. I started my new job that same week, that traumatizing week. And I actually got mailed. Yeah, I got mailed my computer and I haven't met anybody in the office yet. And ever since then, I was like, I need to immerse myself in programmatic. So I went on Spotify and I just typed in all things programmatic. Yeah. And I just started following you. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Thank you so much for having me. I was super excited about this.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Yeah. And I'm so happy you got to find a podcast and now you're here. Yay!
I know, right?
So I know you already told us a little bit about the last year, but how about you introduce yourself to us for those who don't know you yet?
Sure. So my name is Reny, born and raised in New York. I'm from Brooklyn. And I got into digital advertising because of my family. My sister works in social.
Oh, wow.
And my cousin also works in social as well. And I was like, you know what, let me try this out. And I absolutely loved it.
Nice.
I work at Digitas under the Publicis umbrella. And I've been working there for a year now. Like I said before, since lockdown. But I just fell in love with programmatic. I love the omni-channel buying. I love the cool buys. I love working with different vendors. That excites me. And of course, the testing and learning part of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, how was that? Talk to us a little bit. I know you touched on it at the beginning of the call, but tell us how. So you said you haven't met anyone on your team. Well, physically met anyone on your team yet. How has that been for you?
It was interesting, right? So I started, I think the 16th. I think that's when New York actually locked down. And the company was so supportive. They mailed me my computer and I was like, all right, I got my second screen. I had one handy. I couldn't believe that. And kudos to everybody who worked off of one screen that whole time, because I cannot.
Listen, we need a minute of silence for them, because I have a friend who works on her Mac and she's been working in the industry for years, but she only works on Mac. And I know if she's listening, she knows I'm talking about her. But I power to y'all. I can't.
I cannot. No. You know how many DSPs I have to have open, and there's no way. But thank God I had a second monitor handy, and I just got to work. I started subscribing to all these Digiday, the eMarketer, all these podcasts. Yeah, because you know what? Programmatic humbles you.
Yeah.
If you know something,
sure it is.
And then next week, you read an article on there's a change in the industry and you're just like, all right, now this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good segue into today's conversation, because I know offline when we chatted, you mentioned that, well, I'm doing a test right now internally with the team, with a brand, an advertiser, and I automatically got intrigued, right? I think this is the best thing I've ever heard. This industry humbles us. And that's one of the reasons why I started a podcast. I selfishly started a podcast because I wanted to interview people like yourself, people in all background, about what they do, what they know, and just share it. Because sometimes our industry is not good at,
and there's so many players.
Mm-hmm. So many. Certain agencies that I've worked with, at least on a personal level, and this is a personal opinion, some of the agency I've worked with would just train you on what they needed you for and not really see your person and advance the self-development. And so that was a big problem for me. So that's why I was like, all right, I'm going to start this podcast. And here we are. So I'm very grateful for the amount of guests, and I'm super excited about the conversation today. So,
Yes.
let's lay the grounds, right? So we're going to talk today. I think we can consider and call it like a live case study of an advertiser or brand that you're currently working on. And this is specifically testing third-party data, the strategy with third-party and without third-party data, right? So give us like high level details. You know, like us media buyers, like we need like campaigns details, like the parameters. So give us just enough. I know you can't go too much in details, but just enough to set the stage.
Yeah, of course. So, a big topic that's in the industry right now, and the reason why everybody's going crazy on like what's happening next is, the deprecation of third-party cookies. Although, Safari has already done it. We already have our browsers that have already done it, and we learned from that on a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. But now we have the big player, saying, you know what, we're going to do the same. So a big test that we're doing right now is, we're testing out identities versus cookies.
So what do you mean by identities? Like, what is the difference between identity and, I guess, cookies in this contest?
So, cookies is what we've always been targeting before, right? Like we can even say like our BAU, business as usual. Now, identities come in when, these companies, whether it's a DSP or DMP, they're coming up with a better way to, one, give user the option to consent to track their data, something that's secure and something that's transparent, but also track it where they have something that's like a device graph tracking, but without using personal information.
Okay. So, so it's the identity, I guess, should be considered. Oh, I guess it's similar to what the Trade Desk is doing with
the UID.
The UID 2.0. Yeah, it's an identity that they call it an identity versus a cookie because they are I guess no pun here, but identifying the user. And I know that there's other solutions out there, initiatives where they were need to use hashed email, I believe.
Correct.
So you're using identity. Can you share which partner or which vendor you're using it, and then how you implemented it in your campaigns? Or rather, we're still talking about the campaign details, actually. Did we cover that yet?
Not yet. Well, we can get there. Okay. So I would say, we're working, and I can be transparent about this. I think this is one of the players that are integrated with a lot of the DSPs.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And like they're like ready for testing because remember, we're all trying to figure it out still.
For sure, yeah.
There's still final details that are needed to be settled within these quote unquote walled gardens. Because now we are seeing that like everybody is coming up with their own identity solution. But the great thing is that they're it's like a group effort at this point.
So we are effort.
Right.
That was shade. Okay, I'm being shady. All right, whatever. Call me petty if you want to, but I'm being shady. But sorry, go ahead.
So we are working with LiveRamp.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And their solution is called IDLs, Identity Link. And it's all over the internet. Like you can read on about it, but they've been ready for testing for a while now. So, we picked them. So what I would suggest to anybody who is, who wants to test or who's looking to test is, pick a brand that has a healthy amount of CRM data.
Okay.
And, we want to make sure that, one, it's accurate, right? The user is signing up for something, maybe for a service or for a product. They're kind of consenting to that, right? They're like, here's my email, here's my name, and this is like something that I'm interested in, whether it's a CPG brand or like a product. So what we do is, we would split up these audiences, right? 50-50, cookie versus identities.
Using so that, got it.
Correct. So like the cookie would be like the BAU, like the way that we always been targeting this specific audience.
Okay.
And then now we're using that CRM data and we're matching it to identities. So we definitely want to split that up into either 2 line items, 2 ad groups, and the DSP of your choosing, of your liking. And we want to make sure that all the pre-bid filters are the same. All of them are the same.
So you basically set up 2 identical campaigns or ad group or line items, depending
Correct.
on the DSP that you're running. But the only thing that differs is literally just the audience.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So all your pre-bid filters, like your base bid, your viewability settings, your frequency, it should all be the same.
Okay.
Now, let's take a step back. So I don't want to dive into CPMs, right? Because this is the first time that we're bidding on identities, right?
Yeah.
We just want to test the pipes. We want to see, is this working? Let's just learn from this. But let's take a step back. Let's not put benchmarks right now, because this is, like I said, this is the first time ever where we're bidding on these. Let's see how it works. And let's look at the reach and frequency. I think that is important.
Okay.
And then we can talk about CPMs later in the year, maybe second half of the year.
Right.
But that is important, right? To like approach this test as how can I do it in the DSP, and is it working, and what data do I need to measure its success, but not in a way where I'm setting the benchmarks. It's more like, let me learn from this.
Yeah, I get it. The cost might increase. The cost per 1,000 impression might increase. I mean, it makes sense to me. Like I'm a big supporter of conversion-based strategy, or I know that every campaigns have some level of awareness strategy, but ultimately having that objectives, that conversion that we can report on, that is outside of like a cost per something, unless it's like a cost per lead or cost per acquisition, that makes sense. But having like a CPM goal is, to me, maybe not the best use of the programmatic technology that we have at hand. But I understand that certain clients operates based on that cost per. So I think it's a really great point that you're bringing in. Like, okay, well, we're going to look at everything, including CPMs, but CPM should not determine the success of the results or the success of the test.
Correct. Something else, like aside from reach, we should look at is where these impressions are being served, right?
Okay.
What ad environment and browser.
Okay. Gotcha. So I was going to ask you that. So you said so everything looks the same except the audiences, including the message, including like the targeting details, the parameters. But are you breaking out Safari out? Are you breaking out Chrome out? How are you doing it? Like in terms of device targeting or even like ad environment targeting?
So we're not breaking it out. We're targeting all of them across both line items or ad groups, but we want to look at where impressions are being served, like the percentage between all of them, right?
Gotcha.
Like we want to look at these identities in a Safari environment versus a Chrome environment. Is it still healthy? Are we looking at healthy numbers?
Mm-hmm.
iOS 14 is like another huge change. So
sure is. Yeah. It sure is. I think we're both laughing for the same thing. Like it sure is. But anyway.
So we definitely want to look at the distribution and impressions. Like, are we still seeing healthy numbers here? Okay. And obviously, like it still hasn't been released just yet, but looking at it now, observing it now, observing it again after it does come out is like super important.
Got it. So, all right. So you're testing it right now before we lose cookies. Can you tell us about, so what industry is the test in? Because I do think that seasonality might affect some of the results. Like if it's, I don't know, if it's like a education client, then we're getting into the summer month, and maybe that might affect like application rate, for instance, versus a product-based client or e-commerce, which might be more of an evergreen, need to serve all year long, with the exception of like the newest line, if it's a closing line, for instance. So can you tell us a little bit more details about the industry that you are testing in? And also, like if there's like any geographical restrictions. I think that would be important as well.
Sure. So I would definitely say the brands that I work on, it's CPG, and they're definitely in season right now.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah. So they're definitely in season right now, and we're kind of treating it as like a tempo moment. But it's we're in season for these brands.
Okay. So I think you told me that you've been running this test for about a month, right? Or has it been about a couple months now?
So I ran one. So the two brands that I'm working on, I ran one in Q1, which we just closed out, and then we're running another one for the other brand in Q2. And I want to talk about the differences and how we actually executed those.
Okay, tell us.
So I would say in Q1, we narrowed everything down to just working with one SSP across both line items or ad groups.
One SSP?
Yeah, yep.
Can you share who it was? Was it Google?
Oh, no. Not them.
Funny. I was hoping you want Google. Okay.
It was an SSP that was IDL enabled. So like they have inventory, like the publishers that they work with have, like they're IDL enabled. Okay. Yeah.
That's
so
okay.
Right. So what we did for like the identity ad group, we made sure that we have we set up a deal with them, and which we only targeted that deal. And then for the cookie ad group, we only targeted the sites that were identity enabled, the publishers that were identity enabled.
Okay.
So that's like a true A/B where we are targeting, we have the same pre-bid filters, but we are also targeting the same inventory.
Okay, but aren't you afraid, and maybe that's maybe not a relevant question, but aren't we beating against each other?
So, that was a point that was brought up. But being that, we had transparency into like what sites it was, and, being that the ad group with the identities will only bid on identities, and then the ones with cookie will only bid on cookies, like we were just confident that we were going to get a good read on this test.
Okay, so if there was overlap, then it would be a small percentage, basically.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so we ran that test during Q1. So what can you tell us about the results or even like optimization challenges? Like what should we expect?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the first week of like any programmatic campaign, it's like it always feels like, oh my God, it's under fire, it's not spending. And it's just like, I would say like I said, keep an open mind and don't be afraid to relax certain pre-bid filters like frequency or viewability, just so that you can get that scale to just reach or try to reach more or try to like increase the impressions there.
Got it. And all right, so pacing may have been. Did the ID campaign, I'm gonna call it the LiveRamp campaign. Did the LiveRamp campaign perform better or worse than the third-party cookie campaign? And why? The $1 million question here.
Yeah, that is. I don't.
Okay, so let me break it down. So I know I can understand why it's a hard question. When we look at the CPG goal of the campaign, what was that ultimate goal? Increase of product purchases, I would assume?
No, like
awareness, reach?
Ultimately, it's reach and unique reach.
Unique reach. Okay. So which one of the campaigns came closer to that goal?
So we're still grabbing our data because it was really difficult to get that, being that, we didn't know where the data lived, like where the log files and the device graph lived. So we're still kind of getting everything together. But what we do know is that the identity ad group was more efficient. Okay.
Cost-wise efficient, frequency,
correct,
incremental reach efficient. Okay. So that gives us a little hopes and excitement because this whole industry, basically, I'm going to say this blank general statement, probably use third-party cookies more than we should have. So I have clients that I still I still recommend some client to test third-party cookies, but I'm looking at partners and vendors and other solutions. And so I'll definitely take a look at LiveRamp here. But I think it's very interesting that you all are leading the way in terms of like testing. Like I had Nishant Desai from Zaxis on one of the episode, and he suggested testing, like using Safari as a test ground, as you mentioned, because we're not tracking conversion on there past a day or so. Can't remember exactly it. So is that something, what's your opinion on that? Is that something you would go back and say, hey, let's go ahead and test on Safari versus Chrome and see how it is? Or is that something you can share with us? When you look at the ad environment or the device environment, have you seen an uplift in certain devices? If so, what type of like changes or what type of like noticing lift can you share with us?
Yeah, I mean, well, I will say this. When I did pull results, like when I looked at impressions, like per environment or site, I was very surprised that there was a lot of scale in Chrome and also in Apple devices. Like there was still scale there, where we thought like, it was going to be like very low, but we're happy to see that. But like I said, things are changing and consent notices will be going out. And ultimately, all of these identity solutions are great, but it's up to the user to say yes to that message. And that's both on, mobile and also on desktop.
Yeah. And I think that's why IDFA was like, I mean, we knew something was coming, but that update was still like, oh, dang, another thing that's going to happen to us. To us, talking so melodramatic. So I mean, oh man, I think we all have so many questions, and I know that this is still a test. So let's reset the room like we're on Clubhouse. So for those who are listening, Reny is testing a CPG client with testing two types of campaign, one third-party cookie campaign, and then she is working with a big partner in the industry, LiveRamp, and utilizing their identity graph to target almost the same people as the third-party cookies and seeing the test results. So the ultimate goal was, I'm going to say reach, because it's a test, it's an analysis. So you're going to have to test, benchmark, trend, and implement. But the biggest thing I think we can pull out of the conversation is that we need to remember that everything has to be identical if we want to make any tests, right? So you mentioned that everything but the audience is identical. I think I want to highlight that again, because oftentimes clients come to us and say, I want to A/B test this, but then I want to A/B test with this message going to this landing page with this audience. And at that point, it's not an A/B test. At that point, it's a new tactic. So if you're testing anything, it has to be as identical as possible. I think another thing I wanted to highlight was the fact that we are still seeing scale in Chrome and Apple devices, right? And did you talk about performance between the two? No, not yet. So you didn't tell us anything yet about performance, even though, so you tested that in Q1. What changes have you implemented in Q2 based on your Q1 test?
So that's the second point, right? Because we kind of approached it differently in Q2, where
Okay.
we're not working with just one SSP. We're working on like with multiple SSPs that are IDL enabled or have publishers that are IDL enabled to open up that scale there.
Okay. So I sense that there were maybe underpacing on the spend wise because of scale.
Not so much.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah, it's been in full, but we also didn't carve out, $1 million for it either. Like, this was testing the pipes, and putting something on the media plan saying, this is how we're getting ready for 2022.
Wow. Okay, that's great. I mean, that's a bar right there. We need to get ready for 2022. And testing now is the best way to do it because we do have that. We still have access to third-party cookies. And I guess last question before we close, which I just had and then I forgot. Okay, so you're testing different SSPs. Were you only testing that one SSP in the third-party cookie audience? I mean, campaign?
So in the third-party cookie campaign or ad group, what we did was we got a list of sites under that SSP that are IDL enabled, but the cookies still live in that environment.
Yep.
But we just targeted those sites only because that essentially would have been passed back in the deal ID in the other identity ad group.
Wait, sorry, say that again. I'm not following because my brain.
Sure. No, no, of course. So
you break it out for me as the listener. Because I like to blame the listener, but in all reality, it's for me. So,
okay. So basically,
exactly, yeah.
so there's two ad groups, right? One is going to be third-party cookie, and then the other one is going to be identity.
Okay.
So we only worked with one SSP, and they sent back a deal ID.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
That had all of the inventory that was IDL enabled. And I said, well, I want to make sure that I'm targeting that same inventory and nothing more or nothing less, that same one. So they sent back a list of browsers.
Publishers and
correct.
Oh, you just had to break it out for me, but I get it now. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because you did mention that everything had to be identical. So if it's like a deal ID, which will be like considered like a PMP deal at that point, on the other hand, you'll have to reduce your selection. Makes sense. Okay, makes sense.
Exactly, right. Because, and the reason why is because let's say if we were to target that specific SSP, then they would just give us all inventory, which was cookie enabled since when? Like since 1994.
Okay, I'm not the only one being shitty at 1994. You know what? I said that too all the time, like 10-year-old cookies. I used to say that all the time. But that's real. That's real. Some of the publishers and SSPs out there are not very good at that. Let it go here. But wow, that's a great point. I wish we can continue the conversation, but let's move on to our closing segment, where I like to ask a couple personal questions. So, what are 3 fun facts about yourself?
3 fun facts about myself. Okay, so I love trying new food.
Good. Okay.
I would say that, like, I'm a big foodie. I miss going out to eat after work. Hopefully that will come soon. But I'm a big fan of hot. I love spicy food, so yeah, I'm big on that. Okay. Another fun fact, I love to learn different languages.
Nice.
Yeah, like I know Spanish, I know some words in Italian. Chinese is another like language that I've been heavily trying to like learn, but love learning different languages, and also Greek too, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so a few months from now, or maybe next month from now, when we have you back, we would expect you to be fully fluent in Chinese.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
You heard it here first, guys.
Yes. Hold me to that, please. I love accountability here.
That's awesome. And then, okay, so one last fun fact. So that was 2, foodie, multi-language interest.
Okay. You really don't know yourself until somebody asks you about yourself. This is interesting. Okay, I got to dig deep in here. Yeah, I'm just a big outdoors person. I love hiking. I just love being outdoors. Hate being cooped up. So imagine how difficult the whole 2020 has been for me. But
yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine. I was working from home before that, but I mean, we still go outside our door. We want to. Yeah. Now it's like, now that it's been taken away, you miss it even more.
Right.
I know that there's a saying that says, you don't know what you've missed until you've lost it, I think, something like that. So,
yep.
So yeah, that's how I feel about the coffee shop I used to go to work at. They don't even have table inside, so it's not like I can sneak in.
Yeah.
Like remove table completely on the inside to make sure they're there. But all right, and so For anyone out there that's starting in the industry, what is one advice you can give them?
I love this question because I always say, starting out, you know, working from home in a new industry like programmatic and getting bombarded with that whole ecosystem chart, and you're just like, what is going
You talking
on
about
here?
the Lumascape? That is I have a friend that randomly would G-chat me during the day, like, what is that one chart you showed me a few years ago? I'm like, here you go, but here's the updated one. She said, oh yeah, thank
God.
you. It's terrible. Terrible.
I would say, Google's your best friend, one.
Yeah.
And two, like, like the information is there, do your research and ask as many questions as you can. Like, no question is stupid. Yeah, like just trust that it's okay not to know everything or know how things work in the back end. But as long as you try your best to just try to understand things and put things together, I think that'll all work out for you.
That's a great way to end. That's a powerful way to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you back because we want to learn more about that Q2 test.
For sure. I would be more than happy to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay!
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your love and support. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you have any questions, feedback, or just simply want to say hi, email us at info@programmaticdigest.com. You can also visit the website programmaticdigest.com, where we're always looking for guest hosts. We're also looking for sponsors. So hit us up if you're interested.